Hey there, tech fans. Rick here again with another gadget that I think you're going to really like. It's a Bluetooth audio transmitter and receiver kit that allows you to extend any audio connection over Bluetooth up to 70 meters away. The product is called the Artisan 3 Plus, and it comes from our friends over at OneMe. Now, Bluetooth is one of those technologies that slowly invaded our lives over the last 10 years, and it's used today in all kinds of devices like headsets that are connecting to phones or peripherals like keyboard and mice that are connecting to your computer, and it's a great connection topology. If you've got a newer device, it's really easy to use. You basically put both devices in pairing mode, they find each other, they make that Bluetooth connection, and you're off and running. The challenge is, if you've got older devices like maybe an older stereo system or an older TV that aren't Bluetooth enabled, it's really tricky to get them working with the newer devices. And that's exactly where something like this comes in, because it operates as both a transmitter, so you can use it with an older TV to create a Bluetooth connection you can use with headsets, or as a receiver where you can put it in front of your home stereo system and broadcast music from your tablet or your phone to that stereo system. So it handles both sides of that equation. Now I'm going to get into the details of what really separates this from all the other products on the market, because I love this technology, and this company's built in a lot of leading edge features that really separate it from the others, and I'll go through those one at a time so you understand exactly what you should be looking for in a transmitter or receiver setup like this. But before I do, I get a lot of questions on the channel about Bluetooth in general, and the biggest question I get is, where did the name come from? So if you're not a nerd like me and you haven't done your history, it came from the design team that was putting Bluetooth together over 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, and they used the name of a Scandinavian king, Harald Bluetooth, who was famous for sort of uniting Scandinavia. He was the guy that came in and said, we got a lot of warring tribes, a lot of strife going on here. Everybody get together. We're just going to be one big country and get happy. And that's exactly what Bluetooth technology is designed to do. It's designed to create a really low-powered, high-speed connection over wireless that's close over this Bluetooth standard, and it kind of stuck. It was only supposed to be a project name, but the guys liked it so much that they kept it. So Bluetooth is what it's being called. And what's interesting, another nerd note here, is that if you look at the symbol, the actual insignia for Bluetooth, it's sort of the letters H and B, the guy's name, in Scandinavian ruins. So they've combined those two together to get that particular insignia. So I think that's kind of a nerdy little background on it, but I love those kind of stories because I'm wondering why they call it Bluetooth. Did the guy who invented it have blue teeth? I don't know, but now you know the story. Anyway, I'm going to get into the specs in a minute, but before I do, I'm not big on doing unboxings and throwing plastic all over the place. So what I'm going to do next is actually a closer look at the unit itself, all the components and paperwork that come with it, just to show you what you get in the kit. And then I'll go through a closer look on the unit to go through the actual buttons and connections and things that you need to know how to hook it up. And then I'll come back and tell you exactly why this unit is so different than everything else on the market today, and why this is one that you might want to consider if you're looking for something to connect up Bluetooth devices to your stereo or broadcast from an older TV or something else to be able to do that over a Bluetooth connection. So stay tuned and I'll get into the unboxing next, and then I'll get into the feature sets. Inside the box, you'll find the Bluetooth transmitter and receiver unit, a quick start guide that shows you what all the buttons do, what connections you'll need to make, and what the indicators mean. Also included is a full user's manual that shows you all the connections you'll need to make with your own equipment at home, as well as the specifications the product can support. And then finally, they also include a happy, not happy folder, and I think this is a really brave move. If you're happy and you open it up, it explains to you how you can get in contact with them, how you can brag about the unit and send them feedback. If you're not happy, it also gives you contact information of how you can get a hold of the company with any questions or problems you've got and let them know that you've got some issues. And I think that's a brave move. A lot of companies nowadays kind of sell you something and then hope you never find them again if you have problems. So I think it's great they include that. On the other side of the house, they include a lot of connection cables and such that you can use to hook this up to your equipment at home. So I'll start off with the power supply. This is a standard micro USB connection on this end and a full-size USB-A connection on this end. And they also include a wall plug. Now, a lot of these units come without a power supply, and either they include a cable or maybe they don't even include the cable, and just assume you're going to be able to connect this up to something on your own. I love the fact that they include the power supply, the cable, and the end of it, again, is a micro USB that plugs into the back of this. This standard USB-A connection is great too, because if you've got some TVs that have the newer USB-A connections on the back, a lot of them have that, you can plug this into the TV and actually power this right from the TV without worrying about plugging in the wall wart. So completely up to you. But if you've got an older TV that doesn't have the USB-A connection on it, you can plug this into the wall, plug this into the back, and that's all the power you'll need. Now, as far as making the audio connections, they include an optical audio cable, which is really nice, about 1.5 feet long, so it's plenty long to make a connection from this to your TV or to your stereo. They also include a standard analog connection, which is a TRS connection on this end, 3.5mm cables on both ends, and you can plug this into the headphone jack on your TV or the audio input jack on the back of your stereo, depending on if you're using this as a transmitter or receiver, and that's a really standard connection. Now, a lot of the older TVs and some stereo systems use the dual RCA connections like this for left and right, and this plugs right into this adapter here, so you can still plug this into the back of the unit and handle the audio being transmitted or received through this technology by plugging this into your stereo. So they really think of everything when they're putting the kit together. Now next we'll take a closer look at the unit itself, and I'll explain what the buttons and knobs do. The case of the transmitter and receiver unit is constructed of a high-impact plastic, which makes it really lightweight but very, very durable. The company's done a great job of organizing the buttons and switches that you'll need to interact with on the unit right on the top, which means it's super easy to control. They've also built in a nice digital display below it, so you always know what's going on with the unit. In the upper right-hand corner is an on-off switch. You can turn it on when you're using it and turn it off when you're not. And that's something a lot of other companies don't put on their units, which it seems like a small point, but those other units are plugged in all the time, which means you're wasting power, and you're working the electronics all the time when you're not actually using the unit. So being able to turn this off will prolong the life of the unit. To the left of that is the mode switch. This unit can operate as both a transmitter and a receiver, so that switch determines which mode it's in currently. If you slide it to the left, it's in transmit mode. If you slide it all the way to the right, it's in receiver mode. And if you put it in the middle, it's in bypass mode. Now, the unit's always passing audio through the back of the unit. And for example, if you've got it connected up to a TV, there may be times where you want to broadcast to a set of Bluetooth headphones, but you might also have a home stereo connected up, or you've got a sound bar. And if you're connecting through this to that sound bar, in the bypass mode, it'll pass the audio through this to that sound bar, so you'll have that great studio sound. When your kids and family go up to bed at night, maybe you want to watch a TV show or you want to watch a movie, put it in transmit mode. It now turns into a Bluetooth transmitter to send that audio to your Bluetooth headphones. So having that bypass switch is nice. Again, that's something you don't find on a lot of other units. That means you've got to get behind the TV and reconnect up the cables. On the bottom, that's the Bluetooth sync button. If you hold that for 3 or 4 seconds, it goes into pairing mode. You put your device in pairing mode, they'll sync up to each other and you're off and running. This is the optical auxiliary switch. If you tap that button, it'll flip between optical and auxiliary. Auxiliary is just another word for analog. So on the back, there are both digital and analog connections, and I'll show you those in a minute. To the right of that, the plus and the minus buttons allow you to, on some devices, increase the volume or switch to the next track, or decrease the volume or switch to the track you were just listening to. And the last feature is this NFC, which is a near-field communication. A lot of the newer phones use that for connection topology. This unit has it built in, so you have the choice of either using Bluetooth on those devices or using the NFC connection. On the back of the units, where all your connections to your stereo equipment or your TV is made, this is the output to the speaker. This is the input to the device from your TV or from whatever device you're going to use to broadcast Bluetooth audio. This is the analog connection, the 3.5mm plugs in there. This is the optical connection, and that's from the TV or the input. This is the output typically to your speakers. That's the optical, and that's the analog. And in the center, that's the DC input from the power supply. And again, here are the 2 antennas. You can fold them up for best reception and transmission. You want to have them straight up. You want to have them parallel to each other as well to get the best radiation pattern. And that's pretty much it for the unit. Now that I've shown you what's included with the kit, I'll cover the technical things that you'll need to look for if you're in the market for this type of Bluetooth transmitter and receiver. And honestly, there are a lot of products in the market that may look similar, but they don't operate the same way. So understanding what the specifications are and how they impact the performance of the product makes it really easy for you to compare one product against another to get the best value for your money. Now, I'm going to divide these into 2 categories: basic specifications, which are things that impact the performance of the product, what it can connect to, how well it works. The second category I'm going to call features. Those are things that are nice to have. They enhance your user experience, and they just make it a better product overall. And the good news is, the team from 1Me has got the basic specifications nailed. They've done a great job of building a product that's incredibly reliable. It works really, really well, but they've also spent the extra time to build in some of those advanced features. And what that tells me about the company is they're thinking about me as a consumer and how I'm going to use the product, and they're building in things that are going to enhance my experience. And some of those features you may not even use when you first turn it on. You may find them later on and go, wow, I didn't know that was in there, and that really enhances my experience. So I don't know if you'll say exactly that, but it does make it a lot better a product in general. So I'll go through the basics first, then I'll talk about some of the features that are cool that are built into this, because if you're out there shopping for a device like this, you want to compare the basics, but if you can get some extra stuff for about the same price, you might want to go with this product. All right, so the basic specifications, there are 2 that you should care about with any Bluetooth device you're going to compare, and those are the version of Bluetooth and the class of transmitter that's built into the product. Now, I'll start with the version of Bluetooth. Now, I'd mentioned Bluetooth was developed almost 20 years ago, started with version 0 as a beta, and then it matured up through different versions. So version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4. They're on version 5 right now. I'm not going to bore you with all that early history up through 4, but version 4 was the first one that really had a major impact on the audio. It did things like improve the qualifications for the codecs that can play. Codecs are the underlying architecture of how audio is transmitted. It's nerdy stuff, but it's got a broader series of codecs that it can support. It reduced the latency, and that's the transmission time it takes from the guy moving his mouth on TV to you hearing it in your headsets. They reduced that latency. They've done other things to really enhance the audio in version 4. So version 4.1, 4.2, 4.2 was the last version of 4. That's kind of where everything stopped for me anyway with audio. Now version 5 came out. Version 5 is really dealing with more high-speed devices. So we're starting to see keyboards and mice and cameras and other peripherals, Internet of Things kind of technologies connecting over Bluetooth. Version 5 is really addressing that to improve the speed, reduce the latency for those type of devices, but it doesn't really impact audio much. There's a couple of things in there for audio, and you nerds out there that are Bluetooth nerds, I don't want to get into a sword fight with you because I've got a lightsaber back here. I'll whip it out if I have to. Anyway, version 5 for me is overkill for audio. Now, the good news is this company makes a pro version of this. So if you're a diehard, gotta have 5.2 or 5.1, you can go with the pro version. It's a little more expensive, but for me, the better value is to go with this one because 4.2 does everything I need it to do for audio. So you want to make sure any device you're looking at will connect over 4.2 at least on a minimum, or 5.2, which is the latest version. The other thing you need to be aware of is that all the Bluetooth devices are backward compatible. So if you've got a 4.2 device and you're using one of the newer iPhones that uses 5.2, it'll work just fine on this. Conversely, if you're using this with an older device that's not 4.2 compliant, it's compatible. So there's really no worry. It's just that you don't take advantage of those features unless you're on that particular rev level. The second thing I want to talk about as far as basic features is the category of the transmitters. Now, most of the Bluetooth devices out there are category 2 or class 2, which means their transmitter power will go about 10 meters. So you get about 30 feet out of them, and that's what most of us are used to. So if you've got Bluetooth speakers in your house and you turn them on, for the most part, if you bought them a couple of years ago, you get about 30 feet, you're going to get choppy audio. And that's just the way it works with a class 2 transmitter. This is a class 1 transmitter in it, which means it's way more powerful. You can go 70 meters with this thing. Now, a lot of people out there are going to think, well, Rick, big deal, I can transmit 70 meters. The device I'm using can't transmit back 70 meters. But honestly, what's going on in here is you're not only transmitting more powerfully, but it's more sensitive for the reception as well. So having a more powerful transmitter means I'm going to get close to 70 meters or better if I'm in a wide open area. Now, in the house, you've got walls and things that'll affect it, but just know that it's got 7 times the distance of an average Bluetooth device. So that's a huge difference between this and most of the devices out there that are a class 2 device. Okay, it works okay if you're in the living room, but if you're farther away than that, you're gonna have problems with choppy audio. Where that really matters, and this is super important, is if you're connecting this up to a TV, that latency between, again, the person speaking on the screen and you hearing it will drive you crazy. And some of the less expensive devices that are class 2 devices, if you get more than 10 feet away from the TV or 15 feet away, that latency starts creeping up and that synchronization is off. And I'm telling you, it's going to drive you nuts because as humans, we pick up on that. We can read those lips and understand when that audio is supposed to be hitting our ear. And if it's delayed, it's going to freak you out. So having a class 1 transmitter, 4.2 on the Bluetooth version means I'm going to have great synchronicity between my TV and when I'm listening. Now, it's not a big deal if you're listening to audio because there's nobody speaking. Now you're just listening to a song. But if you're using it with a TV, you want to make sure you've got a really strong transmission pattern, like I said, with the class 1 transmitter, and that you want to be on the version 4.2 at least. All right, so those are the basic specs. Write those down. Version 4.2 or later. If you can get a class 1 transmitter, even better. That's the gold standard for these type of devices that I'm comparing side by side. Let's talk about the advanced features. All right, some of the things that are going to matter to you. A lot of these have internal antennas, which work okay for a class 2 transmitter. But if you get into a situation where you're doing class 1 transmissions, you need external antennas. Having 2 antennas is even better than having 1 because you get a radiation pattern that's a much more even pattern out from this device radiation-wise. So it gives you a much cleaner signal that you can move around in the room and not have dropouts and synchronization issues. So I love the fact that they built in 2 antennas externally on the unit. Again, you can use an internal antenna, but it's really subject to where you're sitting and it really reduces your ability to transmit. The other thing that's nice about this is that it uses both analog and digital connections. So you can connect over a 3.5 millimeter connection on analog, just like a headphone jack, or you can use optical and do digital if you want. So that's really nice. A lot of them are one or the other. They can't do both. One of the big features that you're going to find to be an advantage to this unit is that it has pass-through. A lot of them don't have that. Now, what pass-through does for you is allow you to make the connection. Let's say, for example, on your TV, you've connected your TV up here. you've got this side of it going to your soundbar or your home stereo system, where you're using it when you're watching those big blockbuster movies, and the soundbar is where the audio is coming from. Everybody's enjoying it. All the explosions are all over the room, and you're hearing it behind you and everything else. But then the family goes to bed at night, and you want to use your Bluetooth headphones. Well, if you don't have that bypass switch this guy has on it, you've got to get behind the TV, reconnect everything up just to use the Bluetooth functionality of it. So having a bypass switch means just by flicking the switch, I can go from my soundbar to my Bluetooth. So when the kids and my wife go up to bed and I'm going to watch a TV show or some scary movie, I don't have people screaming in the living room, waking everybody up upstairs just by flipping that switch. So that's a major advantage. The unit also features NFC, which is near field communications. A lot of the newer phones will use NFC for connection to these type of devices, so it's got NFC built in. The other big feature that it's got, and this is something you definitely want to look for, is a functionality called aptX, which is a synchronization technology that gives you lossless audio transmission over Bluetooth. It's a fairly new standard that's been introduced. I think it was in version 4, but aptX is really a function that you definitely want to make sure you have in any kind of Bluetooth receiver or transmitter that you're hooking up at home, because it's going to, again, give you that synchronicity with your TV, because, again, there's nothing that'll drive you crazy. And believe me, I've tested a ton of these, and I have more reviews coming. There's a bunch of them I can't review, because the minute I connect up to a TV and start watching a show, it's off by a couple of milliseconds, and man, I'm picking up on that. But having aptX eliminates that, reduces that latency between what's being broadcast and what you're hearing in your headphones, and it really tremendously improves the experience for you. So I think that's all I really wanted to cover for the advanced features. I like this product an awful lot. I've talked about it ad nauseum already in this clip, and I think you can fairly compare it to other products out in the market, and you're going to find they built a really quality product at a very good price here. If you have questions about anything I've covered today, whether it be Bluetooth or this, drop them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible. If you're interested in this product, I've got a link below where you can go on Amazon and check it out and see if it's something you might like. You can compare it to other products on Amazon, but if you use the link, we do get a little commission from Amazon for doing that. So, if you want to support the channel, use that link to go to Amazon. I will have other reviews of other Bluetooth devices, because this is specifically built for audio, and it's a transmitter and receiver. You may not need this sophisticated device. If you're just trying to transmit audio from a TV, maybe all you need is a transmitter. You don't need the receiver side. So I'll be doing individual receivers, individual transmitters. I've also got Bluetooth devices that are dongles you can use with your computer if you're using headsets or keyboards and mice. So there'll be a couple more Bluetooth reviews coming out. So stay tuned to the channel if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And that's pretty much it for today. So I love this kind of technology. I hope this was informative and you got some value out of it. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these clips. So if you enjoyed this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button down there and join the Drone Valley family. We're going to be doing a lot more clips like this, and you won't want to miss them. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, stay nerdy!